You okay?
Yeah.
So it's like this one.
City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Alderman Fisk.
Here.
Alderman Braithwaite.
Here.
Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Wilson.
Here.
Alderman Holmes.
Here.
Alderman Tendam. Alderman Grover. Alderman Rainey. Alderman Burris. We have a quorum.
Welcome to the Tuesday, May 28th, 2013 meeting of the Evanston City Council. First item on the agenda is the Mayor's public announcements and proclamations. And I have a proclamation, and I would like, before I read it, to thank Dave Davis for bringing this economic development opportunity to our attention. Business Event Day, June 20th, 2013. Whereas Jewish B2B Networking was founded in June 2010 under the direction of Shalom Klein to connect and empower small business, service the needs to individuals in transition, and develop programming that has successfully brought together thousands of individuals, put over 92 people to work. And whereas the City of Evanston is committed to economic development, bringing new businesses to our community, and creating an environment friendly to small businesses, which make up 98% of Illinois employers. And whereas the City of Evanston supports the Jewish B2B Networking Organization and invites the community to join their upcoming Free Business and Employment Expo on June 20th, 2013. Now, therefore, I, Elizabeth Tisdall, Mayor of the City of Evanston, Illinois, do hereby proclaim June 20th, 2013 as Business Event Day and encourage residents to participate in this event to be held at Evanston Township High School. Shalom, would you please come up? I know you got these from other businesses, but we framed ours.
Oh, this is beautiful. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Looking forward to continuing to partner with the city in the event.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to see you. And the other announcement that I have is I'd like to thank the Planning and Development Committee for their discussion of the 3 unrelated law and say that I think that Alderman Wilson, your proposal is a good idea, and I'm glad it was sent on to the Plan Commission. But the one caveat I would like to put forward is that no one has been evicted ever under the 3 unrelated law, and we do plan to enforce the new law. So I want to say that as often as possible so nobody can say later that they're surprised. Next item on the agenda is City Manager's public announcements.
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of the council, good evening. First, we have a presentation from the American Heart Association to our health department. Santrice Martin, who is the Health Equity Director for the Heart Association's offices here in Chicago, is here to make the presentation. Ms. Martin, good evening.
Good evening. Again, my name is Santrice Martin, and I am with the American Heart Association. And every year, the American Heart Association chooses organizations to recognize for their outstanding commitment to employee wellness. And so this year, we've chosen the City of Evanston Health Department because of some of the great programs that it provides for its employees, but not only its employees, but its community as well. So I have the pleasure of presenting our Fit Friendly Gold Achievement Worksite Award to the City of Evanston Health Department. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And next, Madam Mayor, I'd like to ask Adelita Hernandez to come forward. As many of you know, Adelita is leaving the City of Evanston. She's moving on to Rotary International. Well, she'll be working in their public relations and communications operation. Adelita's done an extraordinary job for us, first in the health department and then working in the city manager's office. Has got the mayor to tweet, got the mayor to Facebook.
What do you mean, got the? I had incredible talent.
Enhanced and supported by Adelita. But we really appreciate all the good work that Adelita has done. She has helped connect the City of Evanston with our residents, and we will miss her very much, but know that our loss is the gain down the street of Rotary International. So Adelita, on behalf of the Mayor and City Council, I want to thank you for your good work and present you this plaque. Congratulations.
Well, it's been quite a ride, 7.5 years, but I will still be in Evanston, and I will miss working with every one of you. So thank you for dedicating this award to me and for all the opportunities to learn, and I value all the skills that I've been able to acquire through the city. So.
Well, thank you, Adelita, for all the opportunities I've had to learn from you. And also, the only thing the city manager left out was thank you for being my interpreter and helping me with the Latino community. I appreciate it.
Me too. Thank you.
And finally, I'd like to call up Paul DiAgostino, our Assistant Director of Public Works for Forestry, to make an announcement regarding an upcoming tree event in a few weeks.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Evanston's substantial tree population has been a source of pride for residents for many generations. However, maintaining the health of our urban forest becomes more challenging every time an exotic disease or pest is introduced into the area. To address the challenges and opportunities related to Evanston's tree population, City of Evanston's Parks Forestry Division and the Open Lands branch of Evanston Tree Keepers are co-sponsoring a special event that will combine education and entertainment. The Tree Summit to Save Evanston's Urban Forest will be held on Saturday, June 22nd. We're pretty sure it's going to be at the Levy Center, but we're still working on finalizing those plans. Speakers at the summit so far will be Mr. City Manager Wally Bobkowitz, myself, as well as Wendy Pollock, who is the head of the Evanston Tree Keepers Group. Entertainment and activities are being finalized. Light refreshments will likely be served, and there will be giveaways that will help residents lead a greener life. Admission obviously will be free, and all ages are welcome. A little bit on the background. The latest threat to Evanston's streets and boulevards is the emerald ash borer. Due to this invasive pest, approximately 2,000 of Evanston's 4,000 public ash trees have been removed or were slated for removal in the near future. It is expected that it is only a matter of time before the remaining ash will be lost. At the summit, residents will learn more about the negative impacts from losing so many trees and what steps are possible to maintain Evanston's tree population. Community members will be given a chance to support an enhanced tree planting program and take action together to save Evanston's urban forest. This event is just the beginning of a larger fundraising and outreach initiative, and the city's goal initially is to raise $25,000 by the end of September in order to help purchase at least 100 additional trees for planting on city property. For any more information about the Tree Summit, or the Outreach Initiative, please call 311 or my newest intern, Kelsey Atkinson. You can email her at katkinson@cityofevanston.org. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, that concludes my reports.
Thank you. City Clerk, do you have any communications?
No announcements tonight.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is citizen comment. You each have 3 minutes, and please give your name and address. The first 3 speakers are Fred Schneider. Sorry, did I mess up that name?
I believe Mr. Schneider's left.
Mr. Schneider's left, DeKel Fonda, and Timmy Pappas.
How do you do, City Council? My name is Timmy Pappas. I live at 729 Simpson Street. I will be reading a statement from Marcia Bernstein, who is unable to attend tonight due to a meeting of the Chicago Area Peace Action Board. So these are Marcia's words. Thank you to Alderman Jane Grover, who is not, for sponsoring the resolution, and to the mayor, Chief Rich Eddington, and the rest of the council for their conscientious consideration of the resolution. Resolution 27R13, as I write this, is on the consent agenda for this evening's City Council meeting. As a founding member of the North Shore Coalition for Peace, Justice, and the Environment, as well as a board member of Chicago Area Peace Action, I have studied the current regulations such as they are. We are seeking consent on the resolution to give the federal, state, and local authorities time to catch up with technology. Certainly, there can be uses of drone technology that will be beneficial. That said, it is a new technology, and there is ample reason to move slowly so that the potential abuses of our privacy rights, as put forth in the Constitution, have been considered. Since the last time the Council met, we have collaborated with Alderman Grover to address the concerns raised at that meeting. Changes to the language are reflected in the resolution in your packets. Specifically, we addressed the issue of toy and/or hobby aircraft, as well as experimental aircraft testing for research and development. One of the precepts that the FAA is evaluating is the space where one presumes privacy, that is, within the confines of one's home. Drones have the potential to violate that space, which is of concern. Current legislation under consideration in Illinois does not preclude the weaponization of drones. Potential collateral damage is of concern to Chief Eddington and should be of concern to all. Again, the resolution you are considering tonight is just that, a resolution asking Evanston to lead the way in slowing down and making sure that the positive and potentially negative aspects of this new technology have been explored. Thank you.
Thank you.
DeKel Fonda, 30-year resident of the Second Ward, and I'm also with the North Shore Coalition for Peace, Justice, and the Environment. And again, I want to thank Alderwoman Grover for sponsoring this resolution and for the Council for, again, considering it with the changes that we hope will meet the suggestions that were made at the last Council meeting. I want to share with you that I was in Springfield last week with Representative Robin Gable. And as you know, one of the concerns we have is that this technology is way ahead of any state or federal regulations. We still don't know where the state will be on this. Daniel Biss's bill has passed the Senate, but at this point, from what I could gather, being at the Capitol, the bill did get out of the Rules Committee at House, but it currently is sitting in the Judiciary Committee. And as of this morning, Representative Gable was not sure if it would get out of that to the House floor in time for a vote on Friday. It may. As she said, it's still alive. So we're hoping that it does. But again, and I have permission, in fact, I've been asked by Representative Gable to let you know that she's very pleased with the proactive stance that the council is taking on this resolution, as are we. So again, we want to urge you to pass this and let Evanston stand as the third city in the country to take a position with this resolution, which is a statement of our values, of our principles, and of our intent on this issue. Thanks.
Thank you. Next is Junaid Risky.
Junaid Risky. I hear the new buzzword coming out of the city. Staff needs to be more creative. Wally wants more creativity. I just wonder who we're kidding here. Wally, creativity is not holding illegal meetings. Maybe you and the council members who attended the Harley Clark Mansion meetings thought you were brainstorming. Of course, we'll never know since the tapes disappeared. Problem-solving ability, your problem-solving ability seems to create some more problems all the time. There appears to be a very interesting trend here. Create incomplete, unrealistic work and put it out for bid. Then wait till almost no one bids on it, or you get very few bidders, and the bids come in all over the place. Then tell everyone Wally will negotiate. Then change the original scope. So far, several of these items have not seen the light of day. I remember it was said here that Robert Crown would not cost the taxpayers a penny, not one penny. Now you're saying something different, a public-private partnership. Sounds like the Chicago parking meter fiasco. The Harley Clark Mansion issue, beyond all these meetings, it seems like a sole source deal and appears to be selling zoning. Wally, you and your council member friends, if you're very clueless to the process that's going on here, can you point to one item where you've been creative and didn't cause a problem, didn't spend extra money, or violates the taxpayers' trust? Wally, real creativity and real creative people know the rules and understand the process. They make a jump beyond what no one else could have seen. Creativity is not selling our lakefront. I suggest you work with the original constraints of the problem, and that is figure out the best use of the building, the Harley Clark Mansion. Maybe if you do this without the politics of public officials, you might even come up with a creative solution in the public interest. I think you need to stop telling staff to be creative unless you can be creative first in the public interest. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes public comments. Next on the agenda is special order of business. City Manager.
Madam Mayor, the city clerk has prepared a resolution in honor of outgoing Township Supervisor Pat Vance.
Do you have the resolution? That's okay.
It's in the packet.
It's in the packet. Hold on. We'll find it and read it. Alderman Rainey.
Madam Mayor, I sent an email to the members of the council today indicating that special order of business, and this one in particular, it really needs to be read by a council member. It's a resolution from the
Would
council.
you be willing to do that?
No, I think the chairman of the Human Services Committee ought to do this.
All right.
And that's what I said in the memo.
Peter?
Staff really shouldn't be introducing resolutions or special orders. And
Yes,
is she
please.
here? Is Pat here?
Find it in my packet.
Page 11.
Here. Peter, pass it down.
Resolution 34R13, whereas Pat Vance has served the Township of Evanston for 12 years as its supervisor and serving the community with integrity. Whereas during her tenure as supervisor, she assumed the responsibility of Emergency Assistance Program in 2003, as well as funding the following organizations: Child Care Network of Evanston, James B. Moran Center, Deaf Housing Options, Evanston North Shore YWCA, Connections for the Homeless, Infant Welfare Society, North Shore Senior Services, Metropolitan Family Services, Family Focus, YOU, Shore Community Services, Peers and Trilogy, and has served the citizens under the watch of the township with integrity. Now therefore it be resolved by the City Council of the City of Evanston, Cook County, Illinois, and the Township Board of the Town of Evanston, Cook County, Illinois. Section 1, the Township Board of the Town of Evanston, on behalf of itself, the Mayor, City/Township Clerk, City officials, and the residents of this community, do hereby express with great appreciation to the Supervisor, Pat Vance, for her services to the Town of Evanston. Section 2, that this resolution be made part of the permanent records of the Town of Evanston, and that a copy executed by the Mayor, assisted by the City Township Clerk, and be sent to said Pat Vance.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you very much. Alderman Rainey, could we have the consent agenda, please?
The Administration and Public Works Committee met this evening, and we recommend the following. City of Evanston payroll through May 5th in the amount of $2,619,382.07. City bills through May 29, $3,597,201.31. We ask your approval for a single source, sole source purchase of water main leak detection equipment from Fluid Conservation Services in the amount of $53,060. We ask your approval also to authorize the manager to execute a contract with AVI Systems for the purchase of installation of new video cameras, mixer, and microphones in the amount of $43,167. This would be for the City Council chambers. We ask your approval also for a sole source purchase of 20 flashback 2 in-car video recording systems from L3 Mobile Vision, Inc. in the amount of $50,100. Council approval is also requested for the renewal of an agreement of the 2013 Summer Food Service Program with Open Kitchens in the not-to-exceed amount of $2.44.6 per lunch. Total value of the food cost of the program is $86,500. The budgeted expenses are $115,092, of which $103,000 is to be reimbursed by the federal government program. We ask your approval also to authorize the manager to execute a contract for the base bid for the 2013 Ecology Center Greenhouse Edition with... Did we take this off? We took this off the consent agenda. I beg your pardon. This will be addressed by Alderman Burse or Alderman Grover, the committee chairs. Next, Council is requested to authorize the city manager to execute a contract for the 2013 Fire Station No. 2 renovation project to McGuire, Igliski and Associates from Evanston, Illinois, at a total cost of $22,527. Whoa. We ask your approval also to participate in a contract extension through the Suburban Purchasing Cooperative for pavement marking services to apply thermoplastic marking materials at various locations throughout the city in support of the pedestrian safety program. Participation in this contract would not exceed $75,000. The council is requested to authorize the city manager to execute a one-year contract with 3 one-year renewals with Havey Communications for the purchase of emergency lighting, sirens, and aftermarket products and services in the amount of $68,973.60. We ask your approval also for the purchase of 8 replacement vehicles units for the Evanston Police Department in the amount of $222,273.98 from Curry Motors, which is the Northwest Municipal Conference Suburban Purchasing Cooperative competitive bid winner. We ask that you also approve a one-year contract extension for the purchase of Ford original equipment manufacturer parts in the amount of $75,000 to Gulf Mill Ford. We ask also you approve the authorization of the city manager to execute a contract for the 2013 water main replacement and street resurfacing CIP Project 1 with Glenbrook Excavating and Contracting in the amount of $1,998,898.26. Funding is from the Water Fund and the Street Resurfacing Fund. The committee asks your approval to authorize the manager to execute a single-source contract for data conversion service with Schaefer Consulting in the amount of $36,000. Funding is included as a part of the total funding cost for the New World System under the contingency for additional implementation services. Next, we have a request for the city manager to execute a change order number 1 to the agreement with Third Millennium Associates for the utility billing, print, and mailing services, increasing the amount of the contract by $5,000 and extending the contract completion date by 62 days. Funding is provided by the Water Fund account in the amount of $3,000 and by the Sewer Fund account in the amount of $2,000. We ask your approval also to authorize the city manager to execute an agreement with Northwestern.
Alderman Rainey, could you take that off?
Yes. The tiny house donation will be addressed by the committee chair. Next, the committee requests you adopt Resolution 30R13, which appoints the City of Evanston's 2013 through 2015 director and alternate director to Swank. That would be...
You can vote no.
You want that off?
No, it's okay.
Should we vote no?
Just feel free.
This is a real labor of love for the mayor. The mayor being the director and the alternate director being our city manager. Next, we ask your approval of Resolution 35R13, which authorizes the mayor of the city of Evanston to execute a highway authority agreement and an addendum thereto with Ventura Realty Limited. Next, we ask your approval, this is for action, an ordinance, to authorize the manager to publicly offer for sale various vehicles and equipment owned by the city through public auction based on Ordinance 42013 through Mannheim Auction Services. The vehicles are presently out of service. Planning and Development Committee met this evening, and the first item is Housing and Homeless Commission and staff and the committee recommend the approval of $277,685 forgivable home loan to community partners for affordable housing for the acquisition and rehabilitation of 2 housing units for rental that is affordable for households whose income does not exceed 60% of the area median income. Next, we ask your approval for introduction of Ordinance 36013, a map amendment to rezone the property commonly known as 1715 Church, 1703 Darrow Avenue, 1711 Darrow Avenue, from the I-2 General Industrial District to MXE Mixed Use Employment District for introduction. For introduction also is Ordinance 37013, which is a map amendment to rezone the properties commonly known as 2153 Ashland, 2143 and 2145 Ashland, 1523 Payne, 1515 Payne, 2150 Green Bay Road, and 2156 Green Bay Road, from the C2 Commercial District to Mixed Use Employment District. For introduction also this evening is Ordinance 53013, granting a special use for a resale establishment at 1104 Davis Street. For action is, P5, I know you'll be surprised, is off the consent agenda and will be addressed by the committee chair. P6, this is Ordinance 46013, which is for action this evening. The Plan Commission, City staff, and the committee recommend approval of proposed Ordinance 46013, amending the zoning ordinance to allow yard waste transfer facilities as a special use in the I3 General Industrial District. P7. This is off the consent agenda. Under Human Services, Resolution 27R13 is off the consent agenda. The mayor has recommended an appointment to the library board, Patel Vaishali. And Madam Mayor, that concludes the consent agenda, and I move approval.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. Seeing no lights on for further discussion, City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Alderman Fisk?
I'm sorry. What happened to H1? Is that on the consent agenda? Okay, that's off.
That's off.
Okay, aye.
Alderman Braithwaite?
Aye.
Alderman Nguyen?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson?
Aye.
Alderman Holmes?
Aye.
Alderman Tendam? Aye. Alderman Grover?
Aye.
Alderman Rainey?
Aye.
Alderman Burris? 9-0.
9-0. The consent agenda is passed. Alderman Grover, would you, or do you want Alderman Burris to walk us through?
I will, and I will thank Alderman Burris for stepping in for the committee this evening. With apologies for my truancy at the committee hearing, I needed tonight to tip the balance in favor of some kids. So thank you, Alderman Burris, for covering. As to item A 3.5, I understand it's been held until the next time the Administration Public Works Committee meets.
Don't you have approval of acceptance of the tiny house?
As to A5, I move that we accept the donation of the tiny house for educational purposes.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the donation of the tiny house. Alderman Fisk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to vote for this. I just wanted to bring up the issues that Virginia Beatty raised at ANPW, that the tiny house not be placed on the Marjorie Blair Perkins wildflower garden. So I don't know what you've all decided about that, or whether that's left with staff or not. But I just wanted to make sure.
Putting it on top of the wildflower garden.
Good. Okay. Thank you very much.
But I didn't hear that.
The committee was against putting it on top of the wildflower garden, and directed staff to place it in another location that would still be visible from the roadway. And I believe the Environmental Association and city staff have identified a place to do that adjacent to the building, but not on the wildflowers.
Alderman Burris.
Yes, I just wanted to acknowledge I will be recusing myself from this vote, as I actually worked on this project at my day job at Northwestern.
But not because you want it on the wildflower garden.
No, I'm just...
Okay.
I'm nothing against the wildflower garden.
All right. So, I believe we're ready to vote on approval for acceptance of the tiny house donation. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Everyone recusing themselves say recuse. All right. Opposed? The ayes have it. Alderman Grover, I believe that completes your report. And Alderman Fisk, could we have planning and development, please?
I think so. All righty. P5, Ordinance 50013, amending various portions of the City Code in order to regulate vacation rentals as a type of B&B establishment. Staff requests consideration of Ordinance 50013, which would regulate vacation rentals as a subset of B&B establishments. Consequently, any vacation rental could operate only pursuant to a special use permit issued by the City Council after recommendation from the ZBA. This ordinance was introduced at the May 13th, 2013 City Council meeting and returned to Planning and Development Committee for further amendment. And we had a further amendment tonight, and which I cannot recite. The City Manager, would you like to?
Certainly.
There were 4 points.
Chair Fisk, the committee asked that staff come back with language that dealt with including a phone number that would be posted on the property so that people could contact management of the property, that there be an allowance for a one-time exception. There was discussion at committee about those individuals that may just do this once in a great while, so that to have a one-time exception. There was also a significant discussion regarding the effective date of the ordinance, and the Corporation Council was requested to come back with language that would incorporate an effective date. And then finally, staff was asked to look at regulations for how this would be implemented. There was concern that the Zoning Board of Appeals could initially be overwhelmed by these applications. So staff will look at the Sidewalk Cafe permitting scheme as a template, and we'll come back to the committee at its June 10 meeting with revisions to the ordinance, and then also the discussion regarding the regulations.
Thank you. It's for action tonight, so do you want to refer it to committee? Stays in. Okay. All right. Anything else, Alderman Fisk?
Yes, P7, that's off the consent agenda. It's Ordinance 47013, amending the zoning ordinance to allow commercial indoor recreation as a special use in the I-2 district. Staff recommends approval of Ordinance 47013 as amended and introduced by City Council on April 22, 2013. The ordinance as amended retains the term commercial in the zoning use and definition for commercial indoor recreation as currently defined in Section 6-18-3 of the zoning ordinance. At the May 13, 2013 City Council meeting, this agenda item was held for the May 20th, 2013 meeting. On May 20th, the ordinance was continued to the May 28th meeting, and this is for action. I recommend approval.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Alderman Wilson.
In the prior conversations, there was, at least for me, a little bit of confusion on the use of the term commercial, and some of the reservations I had related to a definition in another part of the ordinance which defines commercial purpose. And I think our attorneys have expressed that this is a different definition and doesn't necessarily incorporate that other definition. So what I would like to do is propose that we add a phrase at the end of the definition that says, for purposes of this definition, the term commercial purpose as defined in this section shall not apply. So in other words, the commercial indoor recreation definition would stand on its own, and it would not incorporate that additional subset definition for the word commercial. And for me, the point of that would be to not, these would be special use, to not preclude someone from a nonprofit or a sports team or a soccer program or a baseball program that otherwise might be precluded from operating this type of facility. And it's apparent to me from conversations from interested parties that it's likely, or at least as it's proposed or being discussed, at least one entity is planning to rent a facility. The taxes would be paid on the property. It would just be an ordinary rental of a warehouse-type space. So for those reasons, I would like to add the aforementioned section or sentence to the proposal. There was, I think, bounced around possibly adding the words for-profit or not-for-profit. I don't think that's necessary to add that. I think we can just leave it public or private non-governmental recreation facilities. But to add that sentence at the end, I think clarifies the definitions. It would go at the end of the definition of Section 2, and it would just say, it currently says, blah, 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 zoning district as a permitted or a special use, period. Then add, for purposes of this definition, the term, quote, commercial purpose, end quote, as defined in this section shall not apply.
Thank you. Alderman Rainey?
Is that it?
I would need a second. That's a motion.
Oh, that's a motion. Sorry. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Alderman Rainey?
I don't understand. I think you've either done a bad job explaining or I'm missing it. And I'm going to ask you to explain again as to why you would put that in there. First of all, the only application for this is not going to be your friends that are going to rent a space. When we make it possible for an industrial or highly taxed zone available to not-for-profits for removing property from the tax rolls, it becomes the goal of the property owner to get those kinds of people into their building, so that then there can be an application for a rent abatement or not a rent abatement, but a tax abatement or a tax exemption. I mean, it helps the property owner, doesn't it? I mean, you get a not-for-profit tax-exempt entity into an I-2 or I-3, or we have one I-3 district, some district that is an industrial district, and that becomes the goal of that owner. We can never get ahead in this town if we keep removing property from the tax rolls. I think we had another indication today of some potential removal of properties from the tax rolls from one of our favorite universities. So I think this is a real problem, and because I feel that we need to hold this. I'm not going to make that motion right now because I'm talking on another issue, but I think this is all about getting tax-exempt entities who have been wanting to get into these properties for years into them. On Oakton, just west of McCormick, there is a huge facility being built where all of our people could go. We don't need to start building tax-exempt properties, buildings on this side. I guarantee you, if your tax-exempt entity goes into this building, there will be an application for a tax exemption.
Could I respond?
And that'll be a shame.
Go ahead, Alderman.
All right. First of all, you're referencing my friends, and I don't know
the people that you're representing in this ordinance. We keep hearing over and over that there's somebody getting ready to rent space that you seem to be in touch with. Nobody certainly has called me, so they must be calling you.
Well, I think Alderman Braithwaite has had the conversations with them. But that aside, the fact of the matter is, I think that what we're trying to accomplish is to allow people to operate recreation facilities in this zoning district. And again, you were looking at something that somebody suggested we put this nonprofit for profit part in there. I'm not suggesting we put that in there. I'm not even talking about that. I just want to make it clear that the other definition of commercial purpose isn't incorporated in this. This is a definition in and of itself. Commercial indoor recreation is what's set forth in this paragraph. If we were to incorporate that commercial purpose definition, it would preclude people, even if they're paying the taxes, it would preclude them from renting the space. Tax-paying landlords who would be paying the property taxes would not be able to rent the property to people who would like to rent it. And we're basically shutting out possible tenants. And I don't want to do that. It would still be a special use, right, Grant? It's a special use. We would be approving it on a case-by-case basis for anybody. And I agree with you that we shouldn't be making these blanket permissions for anybody to do whatever they want. It should stand on the merits of each individual application.
Alderman Rainey.
I 100% support in the I districts or any other intense use districts the use of the property for public or private recreation facilities, and then with a whole list of what's included in that. I do not understand from the Plan Commission on down to you sitting here the argument that we have to address this issue of commercial. I don't understand it. I've been suspicious of it from the beginning, and I think you have just absolutely confirmed my suspicions by agreeing earlier to leave it in and now wanting to change it. So that's what I'm saying.
Thank you. Alderman Grover?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. When I read the two definitions, first of commercial indoor recreation, and then another definition of commercial purpose, they frankly didn't make sense to me together between themselves. They just didn't make sense. And they are two separate things and for two separate purposes. And the standalone definition now of what a commercial indoor recreation use is now makes sense if we don't try to include with it what a commercial purpose is. We're talking about a use and a purpose as two different things, and so the amendment makes sense to me for that reason.
Thank you. Alderman Tandem?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree with Alderman Wilson. I think that the fact that this is a special use gives me a certain comfort that we can, on a case-by-case basis, as you said, deal with these issues. If there's something to be debated at that time, that's the time to do it. I just think it's very important that we be inclusive of organizations like AYSO or Evanston Soccer, any of these groups, Evanston Baseball, because they're a really integral part of this community. And I think we'd have to consider the trade-off if, in fact, we feel that they're entitled to some sort of, or they feel that they're entitled to some sort of a rebate on the taxes. So I do support this.
Thank you. Alderman Rainey?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to hold this until our next meeting so I can better understand this.
Been moved and seconded to hold, so it will be held.
Are we holding on the amendment or on the whole?
On the whole
package. Alderman Braithwaite, could we have Human Services, please?
Can I just?
Yeah.
Give me a second.
It's not debatable.
Item H1, Resolution 27R13, authorizing the city to establish a moratorium on the use of unregulated drone technology. On May 6th, the Human Services Committee unanimously recommended the approval of Resolution 27R13. This resolution was held at the May 13th, 2013 City Council meeting. It's up for action, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded to pass Resolution 27R13, authorizing the city to establish a moratorium on the use of unregulated drone technology. Alderman Burris.
I oppose this resolution as it limits the use of technology that has the possibility to benefit residents, particularly in regard to public safety.
Thank you. Alderman Grover.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And Alderman Burris, if I could address your concerns. We had a number of conversations with our public safety experts, namely Police Chief Rich Eddington, who said he was very comfortable with the language of the resolution and he felt it did not compromise his ability to do public safety and to be our public safety officer in the operations of the Evanston Police Department. We also emphasized that should he find that there was a time in the next couple of years or before the implementation of meaningful regulation of drone technology that we would revisit the moratorium if it felt that he needed to be able to deploy drone technology for public safety purposes. So Chief isn't here right now, but he was part of our committee discussion. He was available at the last meeting to address those concerns. But from our Chief of Police, he really feels and expressed it to us at committee that this was not something he felt undermined public safety in Evanston.
Is this something he sought from you, or did he come to you and ask you to put this resolution together?
It originated with the citizens group, and
that's what I thought.
And they initiated discussions with Police Chief Eddington before they even came to me, and came to me.
But he did not seek this out.
No, he did not.
Thank you.
And he has not opposed it.
All right, everyone wants to speak. Alderman Wilson.
Not on this matter.
Alderman Fisk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I am opposing this resolution on a number of bases. First of all, the positive and application of drone technology, I think, is something that we really need to pay some attention to. It's been in the press recently, and I don't think the resolution is specific enough to focus mainly on what the concern of the organization is. And Alderman Grover, your concern specifically. I'm also concerned, as I've said before, about how this might limit both the commercial application and entrepreneurial activities in Evanston, and also the work of the Northwestern University professors and students who are working in this very area of automation and robotics.
Thank you. Alderman Tandem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My decision is not to support this as well. I do feel, rather than being the third city in America to establish some sort of drone technology moratorium, I think it's going to send a message that we are not that friendly toward research and development, and that is definitely not the message we want to send at this time. There are going to be more issues like this that are coming up quite soon. 3D printing and other things are a similar concern, but I think we have to look at them and deal with them in an appropriate and very specific way.
Thank you. Alderman Rainey.
Madam Mayor, just, I don't know if it's procedural or what, but doesn't grant a moratorium have to have a time frame? I mean, can it just be forever until something happens, or does it have to be time limited? What is it?
It's 2 years.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see the 2 years. That's sort of unlimited.
Well,
I'm sorry, I didn't see that.
he was fine.
Are you done, Alderman Rainey?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm done.
Alderman Burris.
Yes, I don't think we need the resolution in order to limit how the city of Evanston uses or doesn't use the technology. There's no reason to do that. If the police chief comes and says, I suddenly want to use this, we can say yes or no. I just don't see why we need a resolution at all on this.
Thank you. Alderman Braithwaite.
I am going to vote yes to support this, Madam Mayor, and I'm a little bit surprised because at our last Human Services meeting we had a unanimous support coming out of committee, and I'd like to think back to that moment. The reason that we were supportive was because the way I understood the ordinance to read was that the moratorium was on the police, not restricting our police force from using drone technology in the city of Evanston. And what I heard from the chief of police is that we're not ready to use it. What I heard from the chief of police is we wanted other towns to experiment with the use, and that when we sent this back to staff, it was to be clear with the difference between the commercial use versus the recreational use. I thought that's what we were waiting for to vote on this. I am in support of it, and with that being said, I think it's important to note that I'm voting to support this, but I'm not in support of a moratorium against technology, and I don't think this is what this ordinance is saying. So let's be clear with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Fisk.
Just to clarify, Madam Mayor, I think the folks on Human Services, the intention was to move it on to council and not indicate support.
Thank you. All right, I see no lights on for further discussion, so I believe we're ready. City Clerk, if you would call the roll on Resolution 27R13, authorizing the city to establish a moratorium on the use of unregulated drone technology.
Alderman Fisk.
No.
Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
Alderman Nguyen.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Holmes.
Aye.
Alderman Tendam. No. Alderman Grover.
Aye.
Alderman Rainey.
No.
Alderman Burris. Okay, 5-4.
5-4.
5-4. 4 against.
The motion passes. Alderman Wilson.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to overrule the hold on proposed ordinance 47-013.
Second.
All right, Alderman Wilson, you have now way gone beyond my parliamentary abilities. Grant, what do we do? Do we need a unanimous? Yeah, I know that. Do we need a unanimous vote? 2/3? All right.
2/3.
Thank you.
2/3 per Council Rule 18.12.
All right. Alderman Rainey.
Well, I think the question I would like to have answered is the move to overrule the holdover debatable?
It is. The motion to overrule is debatable.
Alderman Rainey.
Well, I think it's been obvious that I've been very concerned about this for over a month now. And I think to spring something new, which I have admitted that I do not understand, and I'm not sure that every member of this council could pass a quiz on exactly what this is. I'm sure the smart ones could, but not me. I can't. So I am asking the courtesy of this council to hold this to our next meeting. I would be absolutely agreeable to a date certain. And I think a holdover is to the next meeting. I have no intentions of dragging it out any longer. I simply want clarification, which I do not have. I will make an appointment with the legal staff first thing in the morning to go in and get an explanation. If you'd like to ram it through tonight, your late notice, I barely got to read it. I told the city manager late this afternoon that I had, read through it once, and I don't understand it, and your explanation even made it more unclear. So I'm asking you to allow for this I'm asking the rest of the council not to support the overrule of the holdover and to give me the same courtesy that others would give on a holdover.
Thank you, Alderman Wilson.
What I'm trying to do is it's my understanding from talking to Alderman Braithwaite that someone is interested in taking a space. And there has, when was this first in front of us? I think it's been quite some time.
3 weeks.
Since it was first presented? Okay. The city attorneys on multiple occasions had represented to us that they did not think the term commercial purpose would prevent certain people like a nonprofit or the soccer club or a baseball team from renting space. And if you read the definition of commercial purpose, it specifically excludes nonprofits that bring in money for the purpose of furthering their own operations. And if one were to read the definition of commercial indoor recreation to include that definition, it would prevent those tenants. My suggestion is merely to put a sentence in that clarifies the thing that the city attorneys have told us on multiple occasions, that this definition doesn't apply. It would be otherwise a bit confusing because you have two definitions that appear inconsistent. So all it's doing is adding a sentence that clarifies what they told us is the case. So I'm not trying to pull anything over anybody. I'm not trying to confuse it. And perhaps I'm lacking eloquence in attempting to clarify it. But all I'm doing is adding a sentence that says what the lawyers told us, so that somebody 2, 3, 10 years down the road doesn't read it and misinterpret those two definitions together.
Thank you. Alderman Braithwaite.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And also first, thank you, Alderman Wilson, for making this proposal. It is time sensitive. There is a group that is waiting to occupy the space. The group has not requested any tax relief. I thought 3 weeks ago that we were holding this out of a concern of taking the property off the tax roll. That was my understanding 3 weeks ago. I am now out on a pier somewhere completely confused. And I think we've sort of nitpicked at this word to where we're all confused now. If the understanding or Alderman Rainey's concern is that you just want to be sure that this entity or group or no future entity will be able to take that commercial property off the tax roll, I thought we directed staff to write that in the ordinance. I mean, my understanding, Grant, and maybe you can help clear this up for me, and it may clear this up for everyone else, is that as a special use, we can entitle certain things just to make sure that we cannot take this property off taxes. I guess maybe the question would be, what would an organization have to do in order to take it off taxes, off the tax roll? I didn't ask that very eloquently, Don.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, Grant for our corporation counsel. If I'm understanding the question correctly, special use can, under the city code, can be conditioned. So the property for the special use can be conditioned. The lease can be conditioned. There's also a process whereby any entity that goes into a piece of property, they still have to apply for an exemption from the Cook County Board of Review. We tried to get a little bit more clarity on that. We did put some information in the memo that indicates that that process. But a special use is a case-by-case basis. It proceeds through ZBA, comes up through planning and development, it comes to the City Council for final approval. City Council, as it's done in the past, can condition that use on certain factors, certain requirements.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Rainey.
For this user who wants to rent this property, all they're going to get is a special use amendment. What they need to do is put in a contingency. They can rent the property based on a contingency that we pass a special use that allows for commercial indoor recreation in this district, which I am in total support of. And Alderman Braithwaite and members of the council, I am certainly glad that none of us nitpicked over the I-2 zoning of the school that wanted to go into 222 Hartree, because nitpicking over that would have ended up in a disastrous situation because that case was won. So I think to imply that talking about removing property from the tax rolls is in any way nitpicking is really an affront to every single taxpayer in this community.
Thank you. Alderman Grover.
I'll pass. Thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
All I'm asking here is not that this be defeated, but that we be given one more meeting to consider this, and it'll be over and done with at the next meeting, either voted up or down, and clarified for at least me.
Thank you. All right. Seeing no further lights for discussion, City Clerk, I think we need a roll call vote on.
What's the motion?
On the motion is to override the hold.
Okay.
Alderman Fisk?
No.
Alderman Braithwaite?
Aye.
Alderman Nguyen?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson?
Aye.
Alderman Holmes?
No.
Alderman Tendam?
Aye.
Alderman Grover?
No.
Alderman Rainey?
No.
Alderman Burris? 4 for, 5 against.
The motion does not pass. So the item is held. Next we have, Alderman Braithwaite.
Just a quick question, Madam Mayor. The next opportunity to vote on this item will be, at the next meeting. What's just the date? That's all I'm asking for.
June 10th.
June 10th.
Next we have call of the wards. Alderman Fisk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Wanted to talk to you just briefly about 3 items. First of all, ward meeting coming up on Tuesday, June 4th at the library, 7 to 9 p.m. Hope everyone on the first ward will show up. Secondly, regarding the article that was in the Daily Northwestern this morning regarding housing and housing policy at the university, it's been a concern of mine for a long time that we are really, as a city, behind the curve on discussion of a joint discussion with the university about their housing needs. And I think that's something that we need to take a very serious look at and start having that discussion so that we really understand how the university's policy might affect our properties out in the city, whether they would acquire apartment buildings, take them off the tax rolls, a number of things that would affect the neighborhoods close to the university. So I'm going to ask staff to take a look at that. We have, I think, done some information some time ago, some statistics on that, but it's been a long, long time. It's been very difficult for us to have this conversation with the university. I know Steve Griffin and I worked on that, and it was like pulling teeth. So I hope that you will get busy on that and help us so that we don't make some mistakes in the future. The last thing is that I wanted to talk a little bit about the tree and the comments that were made tonight about our trees and getting together to discuss the future of them and raising money for them. And just remind everyone that just a little while ago, when we made the decision to allow the emergency vehicle access road down by the new south parking garage on campus, there were 120 trees that were taken down, if not more, in that location. And it's a little bit disconcerting to me that we're talking the talk and not walking the walk. So I think if we're going to be serious about our trees, we should be serious about every single one of them and take a look at them. So that's what I wanted to say, and thank you all.
Thank you, Alderman Braithwaite.
No report, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Nguyen.
No report, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Wilson.
No report.
Thank you, Alderman Holmes.
No report.
Is it something I said? Thank you, Alderman Holmes. Alderman Tendon.
No report, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Grover. Thank you, Alderman Rainey.
I want to thank the members of the council who supported overriding the move to eliminate the holdover tonight, and I guarantee you, if any member of this council ever moves to holdover, I will always support that holdover, regardless.
Thank you, Alderman Burris.
I have some concerns that non-Evanston residents are being given priority for the Dempster Street boat rack selection process, and so I make a reference to the Human Services to look at the boat selection rack process. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Wilson, do you have a motion for us?
I do. Pursuant to 5 Illinois compiled statutes, ILCS 120/2A, I move that the City Council convene into executive session to discuss agenda items regarding collective bargaining, litigation, and minutes. These agenda items are permitted subject to be considered in executive session and are enumerated exceptions under the Open Meetings Act. These exceptions are 5 ILCS 120/2A, C2, C11, and C21.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.